It's a Monday Night Football doubleheader, and if you love the chalk yesterday, you're going to love the insane amounts of chalk today. Of course, just a two-game slate means a lot of ownership going to congregate. Today, what we're going to do is what we always do. We're going to look at the projections and the ownership projections, try to get a read on the overall slate. We're going to hop over to the optimizer, the solver. We're going to optimize lineups to find out what the math is going to drive people towards, just the pure projections of it all. We're going to run some sims. We're going to single lineup, generate a lineup as well, and sim that out. Let's do it all as we always do here. Of course, got the projections up from Stochastic. Go check them out for yourself. Oh, good. There, I'm talking in another part of. Why is this? Why is it so loud? And why won't it turn down? Oh, good. There we go. Here. This is me talking in real time, and for some reason, it's not muted. I had my phone open. My phone's got the volume off, but for some reason, it does not want to listen to me. Great days here. iOS crushing it. We got Joe Burrow, top projected player overall, 20.9 projection on him, 3.3x value. He will probably be the QB that comes up a lot in Optimizer. And shouts to the chat too. Happy Monday. Yeah. 2-game slate. Good way to lick our wounds after yesterday. Again, Philadelphia, New Orleans blowing up was really the worst thing. That and Jordan Mason combined. The two worst parts of the slate. And then Juwan Jennings goes for 50 fucking fantasy points, which, by the way, Eric Saubert was live for a much bigger day than it could have been. Yesterday's slate was not my fave. We could leave it at that. Josh Allen, number 2, projected higher dollar price on him, $7,800 salary. So about $1,500 more than Joe Burrow. Projection a little bit lower. Again, you're going to get Burrow a lot more. Jamar Chase, he's going to be in pretty much every line. If I had to guess, took a quick look at the ownership before this one. Almost 100% ownership for Jamar Chase projected. More like 90%. But an insane amount for Jamar Chase today. He's the big question whether you play him or not. We'll talk about that. Jaden Daniels coming in number 3. Should drop his ownership down a little bit more, along with him having the bit of a dud of a game last week with no touchdowns in that spot against the Giants. 7 times, though, in scoring position range, obviously, to kick those field goals. So we're getting out of Jaden, obviously one of my favorite players in the year. Trying not to let my best ball brain carry over into regular DFS slates quite as much. But Jaden, as we know, the rushing upside, all of that, still one of my favorite players anytime you get him on a DFS slate. And Trevor Lawrence, number 5 overall projected. So it's pretty much all QBs and Jamar Chase up top. QBs we pretty much saw, so I'll skip over that. Top projected RBs, James Cook, number 1, 16.3 projection. Not a great value, though. Travis Etienne, same thing with his 15.3 projection. Tank Bigsby, going or not, will be an important one for him today. Tank Bigsby's got a shoulder that has been questionable right now. Think he's going to go. He's currently in the projections here. If he were out, it would certainly make you feel a lot more confident in Etienne, given the fact that basically Etienne's been outperformed by Tank Bigsby so far this season. Zach Moss at number 3. He looks like the best value, of course, a game as well where it's expected to be a lot of production passing-wise for Cincinnati. So Zach Moss should rise to that tide a little bit. Moss on the year. Where is he at? Getting 3.5 red zone touches a game, 2.5 inside the 10-yard line, compared to 0.5 per game inside the red zone for Chase Brown. He's the dominant red zone play. So Zach Moss, to me, I think might be one of the hardest fades in the slate. He's probably going to pop up a lot in an optimizer. Brian Robinson, number 4 RB. Austin Eckler, number 5. Both Washington RBs playable. Both Washington RBs fringe playable together, I would say, to try to get unique in like a 150 max, 20 max kind of situation. Wouldn't play that a lot, but both guys definitely in play with Robinson and Eckler both having good workloads in this check down, screen heavy offense for Cincinnati so far. Receivers, top projected Jamar Chase. Number 2 is Terry McLaurin. A huge gap between these two. Holy shit. A 9-point projection difference between Jamar Chase and Terry McLaurin. So the move today is if you fade Jamar Chase and can find your production somewhere else, that's how you win the slate. The bad news is that Jamar Chase obviously is going to be a very well-known, well-quantified play based on his projections and the salary being where they are. T. Higgins at 5,900. He would be your Chase pivot. Higgins coming off the couple weeks of being out with the hamstring. His motivation is questionable. Jamar Chase is right now. Neither guy with a long-term contract. Both guys accused of phoning it in for their team. And I think based on their play, you could actually credibly make that case. But both guys certainly can bounce back today versus the Commanders. Khalil Shakir, number 4, 10.6 projection for him. And then it's a bit of a cliff dive again further to Christian Kirk at 9.8. Brian Thomas, 9.7. Keon Coleman, 9.1. It is an ugly receiver slate, and it's going to make it very easy for people to click Jamar Chase, even knowing that he's chalk. Top tight ends on the slate, probably going to be ugly here as well with no Evan Ingram once again. Dalton Kincaid, number 1 with an 11.1 projection. Still not a great value at a $5,300 salary. Gesicki had a lot of work last week in particular, but no T. Higgins in that one. Gesicki right now earning targets at a higher clip than Jamar Chase is. 36% target per out run for Gesicki compared to 5.5 for Chase, or actually 16% rather, target per out run, but 5.5 targets a game. And Gesicki's earning 6.5 targets per game, 1 red zone target per game compared to 0.5 for Chase. Obviously, this isn't expected to be hold over the course of a year, but for Gesicki, his usage has been pretty good. You would expect it to come down a good amount with T. Higgins in tow. Zach Ertz, number 3. I would say he is a fun tournament tight end to me in a game we're expecting Commanders to play from behind. Brenton Strange at number 4, filling in for Evan Ingram. Last week, what did he play snaps-wise? Last week, Brenton Strange got to 41 snaps. Luke Farrell, 28. So Brenton Strange, the lead play there. Farrell still in play theoretically, but obviously Strange, a much more accomplished pass catcher, who actually I thought was kind of interesting coming out of Penn State last year. This year, seems like he's shown that he's actually got some upside relatively. How's he been on the year? 3.5 targets per game for him, 30% target per out run. Yeah, Brenton Strange, $2,600 salary? Or $2,700 for this slate? Not a bad price for Brenton Strange with the role he's got. Dawson Knox, number 3 here with a 4-point projection. So pretty ugly at tight end as well, which perhaps is not a surprise. And top projected defense, we'll take a quick look here. Bills, number 1. Bengals, number 2. Not that big of a difference there. Commanders, number 3. Jaguars, the one you can get the most leverage on, is probably not going to come up a lot in an optimizer at all. Winning lineups looked wild yesterday. Yeah, that's what happens when all the chalk fails. Literally, all the chalk failed yesterday, which sucked. I thought it was really a week of good chalk, and I usually tend to be, I think, pretty good at determining good chalk versus bad chalk. And that was not the case. That Philadelphia-New Orleans game in particular was just so upsetting that there were so many yards in that game. They couldn't fucking put up touchdowns. Drove me nuts. Besides, of course, Saquon Barkley, who somebody left like a really weird comment about in the chat before and got banned immediately about his big black cock. Like, Jesus Christ, guys. People are like way too into Saquon in a way that's uncomfortable. And I really do hope the bottom falls out for that team pretty fast. But we'll see. When you lose Devontae Smith, seemingly concussion, maybe a neck injury, A.J. Brown as well, the Eagles, despite that win, feel like going the wrong way. Ownership, according to Stochastic, though, of course, you get all this data for yourself when the updates hit later today. 15% off, promo code SPLASH. Use the link in the description as well. We got Jamar Chase, number 1 here, 87% ownership for him. James Cook, number 2, at 72%. So top RB, top wide receiver, going to be owned a good amount on a 2-game slate. Not a surprise. And again, keep in mind as well with showdowns and similarities between showdowns, rather, and these 2-game slates. There's a lot of similarities between them. It's really the main thing to keep in mind with how all this goes, because of the fact that, like, basically it's just trying to get, low-owned lottery tickets is what you're trying to get. It's the best way to put it for both showdowns and for a 2-game slate. It's happened a lot for Thanksgiving. For the last 3 years I've been around on Thanksgiving takes, there's only 3 games there. And as a result, people start congregating on certain plays because of the fact that, like, the math, the projections force them to it. So we're going to try to identify today. But again, projections really going to force people to Jamar Chase, especially, and James Cook to a lesser extent. I mean, really, Cook and Etienne are both going to be owned. That's kind of why I think both Washington backs, maybe some logic. Zach Moss, number 4 here, owned 53% for him. Again, he's got the best value on him at a $5,600 price tag out of the RBs. And Dalton Kincaid, number 5, a $5,300 salary for him, 46.5% ownership. And Terry McLaurin, going to be chalky-ish at 43%, which surprises me. I would think that's going to be lower. Even on a 2-game slate, people really do not like Terry so far. Guess he's had Cliff Kingsbury saying, hot dog meme, we're all looking for the guy who did this about not feeding Terry McLaurin. Maybe that leads to a little bit more ownership, but I really find it hard to believe 43% would be the case. Leave a bunch of salary and play a lot of Jaguars. I mean, I guess. Still think you don't want to leave as much salary for a 2-game slate as you would for a showdown, but we could talk about that when we get into the lineups. Guys that are 10% owned, so ways to cut the ownership product a little bit. Eckler, 16%. I'll put him in here. Again, I think him with Brian Robinson be kind of interesting, but he alone, I guess, would cut your ownership amount down a little bit here, your ownership product. Trevor Lawrence, under 10%. Yoshibis, 9%. Would think that him getting a long touchdown bomb, playing him and Higgins, playing Higgins and Gesicki, that's the way to get away from Jamar Chase and still try to capture the theoretical pass game production. I think he's a little bit more in play. Again, hasn't been good so far. Yoshibis on this year where he's been filling in for T. Higgins, which really should have been his biggest upside. Targeted 14.7% of the time he's running a route, 5 targets a game. No deep targets per game yet either. So for Yoshibis, it hasn't been good so far. So the hope is just him having Higgins out there would make him better. I know Trenton Irwin's a guy who's also due for positive regressions relative to his expected fantasy points and all that. So maybe He's a little bit more in play, but I would think that Yoshivas squeezes him down with Higgins squeezing him down. Chase Brown, his snaps been pretty far behind Zach Moss, but he's under 10% owned. He's getting 15 snaps a game, 7.5 routes per game compared to 42 and 19 for Zach Moss. How'd the snaps go in week 2 for him? Chase Brown went from 17 to 13 from week 1 to week 2, so not good, going the wrong direction, where Zach Moss went from 33 to 51, so Zach Moss has been consolidating the role. Chase Brown can hit you a home run, but I don't think he's going to get enough reps to feel good about. Curtis Samuel, his stuff is moving in the right direction, but he's also not looking that good. Actually, no, his snaps were down in week 2. I guess because of the blowout. 17 snaps in week 1 for Curtis Samuel compared to 12 in week 2. For comparison's sake, Matt Collins has mostly benefited from his absence, 36 to 32. I think this is because of the blowout. Shakir went 33 to 31. Kincaid went 52 to 19. He got hurt in that game too. All right, so I think it's mostly just all these guys going down. Samuel could get more snaps. I wouldn't guarantee it, but I would say that's maybe an interesting play at 6% ownership. Shout out the GMs here. Fellas, appreciate that. Luke McCaffrey here. Noah Brown looks like solid value. Where are his snaps last week? Noah Brown got to 20 snaps last week. He's kind of competing with a lot of guys for the same role. He looked okay in that game. Diami played 50 snaps last game. Yeah, I mean, any of the Commanders' flotsam receivers, I would say Diami Brown, Noah Brown, Zacchaeus, those guys are all kind of low-owned versions of the same play, if I had to guess. McCaffrey played 40 snaps last week. So the most snaps last week were Diami Brown, McCaffrey number 2. I'm sure McLaurin's number 1. And McLaurin played 66. So McLaurin's out there all the time. Diami Brown second most. Then McCaffrey third most. Then Noah Brown. Then Zacchaeus. I think that holds. But yeah, it's definitely a chopped up role besides McLaurin's really the main thing there. Sample, Diami Brown here. Again, a lot of reps, a lot of snaps last week. Tank Bigsby, Zacchaeus. So basically you're looking at flotsam Commanders receivers, some of the lesser Bills receivers. Those are the best ways to get your ownership product down, along with maybe Yoshivas. But you're getting the projection's not going to be good for Yoshivas. I could say that. Let's go to the solver though and see what they have here. This is for their main slate, which we don't want. We want just Monday, which we do not have a sim for yet. So we'll have to figure that out on our own. But let's run an unencumbered little crunch here. Find the top 25 lineups. We'll see the commonalities there. And of course, that'll help us see what the math people is going to drive people towards off these projections, at least from ETR. So naturally here, without stacks being forced, you are getting Bengals, a 5-man Bengals stack here, including the defense. So Burrow with Chase, Higgins, Zach Moss, Bengals D, ATN, Brian Thomas, James Cook. So both RBs coming from the early game. Brenton Strange at tight end. That's your optimal lineup right now. This will be the one to play for cash if you're building a cash game lineup at 11:15 a.m. on the East Coast. All similar. ETR is going to give you Bengals out the wazoo. So right away, that kind of makes me think you don't want to play Bengals stacks with the QB. 100% of lineups include Zach Moss, Jamar Chase, James Cook. So right away, limiting your pool, saying max 2 out of 3, max 1 out of 3 of these guys would be an easy way to do that at a lineup building level. But these guys coming up all the time because of the math. Travis Etienne, not too far off. These are your 4 most popular plays in terms of what the math's going to push people towards. Moss for the cheap, a savings here. Jamar Chase, high projection, decent salary. James Cook, decent salary, decent projection. Etienne, same thing. That's basically it. Never realized Ingram was out. How would you double stack Lawrence? I mean, it looks like the projections would be Brenton Strange and Gabe Davis, Kirk. I mean, it seems like it's treating Davis, Kirk, and Thomas exactly the same. I really don't have a lean. The Jaguars are not a very impressive team so far. The Bills defense, I think, has been better overall. Negative 0.17 EPA per drop back allowed by the Bills D. Negative 0.2 EPA per pass. They play a lot of zone. Brian Thomas has been the best versus zone. 28% target per outrun. 4.5 yards per outrun. So maybe a Brian Thomas stack with Brenton Strange, I guess. Yeah, I think Brian Thomas and Brenton Strange are probably my preferred stack. Yeah, Bills weak against tight end, 14.5% target route run to tight ends, 0.3 EPA as well allowed. So it's probably the softest spot to attack. Brenton Strange gets targeted more out of the slot, though. They don't really run traditional tight end targets. They have actually, Evan Ingram hasn't had a single tight end target on the year. Brenton Strange has had one. Everything else has come out of the slot for the tight ends. Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I'm thinking about this too much because I don't really give a shit. I don't want to stack Jags, but I appreciate the question. To me, stacking Jags, I get it for the low-owned nature of it. I actually don't think the Jags do well in this game. I think if anything does well, Brian Thomas would be my guess. And I guess if you had to stack them up, Brian Thomas and Brenton Strange. Player stacks / game stacks. So you're getting these four guys together: Burrow, Chase, Zach Moss, Bengals in 24% of your lineups. You're getting Cook and Bills together in 36%. So nothing popping up everywhere besides the Jamar Chase, Zach Moss thing that we talked about before. All right, so yeah, I mean, I would say right away, team's going to play a lot of Bengals overall. I would say flipping that, going Commander stacks, which I am, again, biased for, I think is probably the thing that would come to mind right away. Whenever you see a team overstacking here, you got to think about the opposite outcome. And let's use yesterday's example, right? So how did the chalk not hit yesterday? So the chalk Niner stack, let's talk about that. So Jordan Mason chalk at running back, it doesn't hit because all the pass game production, I guess him and Ayuk both don't hit because all the production flows to Juwan Jennings. So in this one, all the projections are going to say that the Bengals perform well. The production flows mostly to Jamar Chase, but there's enough for Higgins, enough for Zach Moss, enough for Gesicki to make lineups sometimes. So that what you would try to say then is that the Bengals either concentrate production through one of those guys, with Chase being the most likely. A tournament approach would be them concentrating production through somebody who's not owned. So that would be then, it would have to be Yoshevich, I guess. Yoshevich, Trenton Irwin, Chase Brown. Out of all those plays, the most credible one is probably Yoshevich. I would think the way to get low-owned right away on the Bengals without going to Commander stuff, without completely flipping the script, maybe be Higgins concentrating production. So Higgins takes everything. We don't do Burrow. Maybe we still do Zach Moss. Don't do Bengals D. But I think right away, just looking at these lineups, you're getting 4 Bengals and so many that I would try to say max 3 Bengals is kind of has to be the rule no matter what. Even if you play like Burrow, Chase, the chalk stuff, when you see just lineups getting over and over again, 5, 4, 5 Bengals, 4 Bengals, 6 Bengals, 4 Bengals, 4 Bengals, 4 Bengals, 3 Bengals, 4 Bengals, 4 Bengals, 4 Bengals, 4 Bengals. You get the point. When you keep seeing it over and over again, and normally on Fantasy Cruncher, you could do like a count of it a little more easily. When you see it happening over and over again, that could just tell you, hey, just only build lineups that have 3 max on Cincinnati. So that would be that. I don't think going to Eric All on a week after Gesicki just got a ton of work and looked good is the right move. That's not necessarily a good process. All right. Let's go to stochastic stuff. Let's build some lineups here. Cannot sim out on ETR right now because they do not have sims for today's slate in, which is fine. We're used to that. They normally don't have sims for their primary slates, or really any slates. It seems like they don't have them in until the afternoon. So if you're using the solver, keep that in mind. Go check out the solver. Link in the description for that one. And of course, promo code SPLASH on the solver as well if you want to give us some attribution, which helps out the show here. And of course, stochastic, which I'm hopping to right now. Link in the description for that. 15% off either data packages, their tools, their single game lineup simulator, I think is a really good one as well, or single lineup simulator. Because that you can do on your mobile phone if you just want to get in, hand build some stuff, sim it out and see how it performs. So it's my recommendation for you guys that are on the go, because I actually did check that out on my phone and thought it was a pretty good product. I got to think today's a 33% to first slate. Let's go with that. All right. Everything's fine here. We got stochastic. What they do, they build 10,000 lineups meant to represent what the pool is based off the ownership, the ownership projections they have. Then what it'll do is have them compete 10,000 times and tell you the ROI based off of that. And of course, it's what we do here pretty much every slate these days. And we'll see what it gives us. But guys, if you appreciate content like this, again, where I'm showing you a real process here using real products, please subscribe down below, hit the like button. Again, support our affiliate stuff as well. Stochastic 15% off. But your engagements here go a long way, hitting the like button, subscribe, and all of that, because it's just me competing against legit companies, people with producers, people with graphics departments, people with data departments. And I'm just here, a normal person here, showing you how to gamble in a way that'll hopefully give you your best shot at turning positive EV on what you're doing in the slate. So hit the like button, subscribe, do all of that. And hey, let's get it going here. Very obvious what's happening on today's slate, though. It's going to be Bengals, heavy stuff. Commanders' dominant win would certainly get you off the beaten path. But yeah, everything basically is going to come down to people playing the Bengals pass game exploding. How do you either capitalize on that without being chalky and duped too much? But I think you're going to get just shitloads of chase, top 2 RBs. And we'll see what the Sims pushes away. The Sims should theoretically push us to lower-owned configurations of that and stuff that's just going to leverage against it. So hopefully it'll give us some fun stuff to look at here. All right. Top ROI. All right. Here we go. It's not me saying it. It's a Sim saying it. Jaden Daniels, Travis Etienne, James Cook. So still taking those top 2 RBs. Jamar Chase, Terry McLaurin, Mac Hollins, Dalton Kincaid, Brian Robinson, Commanders. So you are taking the Chase chalk on here. You're getting lower owned with it, though, because you're playing not that many Bengals. In fact, you're only playing Jamar Chase. So what I just talked about here, where you see Bengals coming up over and over again, a preponderance of them, you can't really force in more. And Sims usually will force more correlation than less. When it just gets to a point where they're naturally coming up over and over again, the Sim goes, hey, try to concentrate production a little bit more. That's what you're getting in this first Sim. And of course, you are getting the double stack theoretically with McLaurin and Brian Robinson and Commanders D as well, which I don't know if that hits, but if it does hit, obviously you're going to be pretty well alone on a 2-game slate. Josh Allen, James Cook, Zach Moss, Jamar Chase, McLaurin, Keon Coleman, Kincaid, Gesicki, Bills. So again, only 2 Bengals in this one. You're getting your Allen stack, so a different look than a Jaden Daniels one. Not crazy about how Keon Coleman's been playing so far, but he's getting a red zone targeted game, a deep targeted game. Only 14% target per out run for him is pretty tough, but high value touches theoretically with the downfield look, with the red zone look. So Keon Coleman works. Kincaid is not playing well, but he's easily the best tight end in the slate with no Evan Ingram in it. So this is some chalky stuff in here. Chase, Kincaid, a tight end, but we're fading ATN. I guess that's where we get unique on this one. Number 3 is Jaden Daniels, Travis Etienne, James Cook, Jamar Chase, McLaurin, Mac Hollins again, Kincaid, Zach Moss, Bills. So not quite as contrarian here with no Brian Robinson, no Commanders D. Only 1 Bengal, though. You're funneling all the production towards Jamar Chase in this build. You're getting a Bills double, but hoping Jaden Daniels outscores Josh Allen or keeps it close enough relative to the salaries, because you couldn't fit Josh Allen in this lineup. I think this works. I think this build works. I find it hard to believe this wouldn't be really duped, but it says 0 dupes here. Number 4, so a more chalky build with Joe Burrow at QB. Joe Burrow, ATN, James Cook, Jamar Chase, so still keeping it chalky with the primary Bengals stack. You're going to Yoshivas instead. You're going to Zach Moss and Bengals D. So you're swapping Higgins for Yoshivas. You're not playing Mike Gesicki. I guess that's the way that we're getting a little bit lower owned, along with Khalil Shakir. If you have a bet on any of the Bills receivers, and to be clear, like I really don't have one. I think relative to usage, relative to efficiency, Shakir's been the best. 1.05 EPA per target. He was great last year. Relative to overall role, Coleman's probably been the best. 21.5 routes per game, gets 1 deep target, a 1 red zone targeted game, half a target inside the 10-yard line. That's not too bad either for Keon Coleman. So he's probably got the most like touchdown potential. Mac Hollins is still getting enough snaps too. Samuel is not efficient enough, but he's still a play. I guess the play is Keon Coleman. I like the most out of Bills receivers. Point being, though, if you like a Bill receiver and you really were to prioritize them, I think you would be, if you get that right, you'd probably be cutting this parlay down really well for yourself. Because Shakir, they're forcing it a little bit. You can make the same case for Keon. You can make the same case for Curtis Samuel. You can make the same case for Hollins. And it seems like you're just getting a Bengals receiver no matter what. So, or a Bills receiver rather, no matter what. So if you have a Bills receiver that you have like a real reason to go to support, I think this would be the slate to do that. Spags, you find it hard to believe that none of these top ROI lines are duped, especially the one that spent $50K. That one would be less likely to be duped. I think it comes down to the lack of Bengals. Like when you don't have a lot of Bengals, you're less likely to get duped. It would be the main thing I saw with the optimizer. It'd be my guess based off of looking at the projections as well. So I believe that there can be less dupes. Zero dupes, I agree, feels unlikely, but I would guess that these are like less duped lineups. But 50K, like again, you don't have to leave 49, like you don't have to go 49,000 on the slate. You could still leave like a couple hundred on there as long as you're doing things that, feel fundamentally unique. Like the Jaden builds to me with Commanders D, I think those don't get duped quite as much. Maybe still one or two dupes, but definitely not like a train of dupes. But this Burrow lineup, Burrow, ATN, Cook, Chase, Shakir, Yoshevich, Strange, Moss, Bengals. So again, getting a lot of Bengals in this one, but getting a little bit less owned with your combo of a lot of Bengals with Yoshevich. Jaden Daniels, again, at number 5. So 3 of the top 5 have Jaden Daniels in it. 5 of the top 6, or no, 4 of the top 6 as well. Daniels, ATN, Cook, Chase, McLaurin, Gabe Davis, Zach Ertz, Brian Robinson, Commanders. So getting another lower-owned receiver from that Bills game. Not a Bill in this case. Zach Ertz, the triple stack with Jaden Daniels, along with the defense, probably gets the ownership down. And you're leaving 700 to the table, so I think that works. For cash or single entry, do you like RB and flex? I would just take whatever the optimal is. Single entry, though, I would treat still like a tournament. You shouldn't be playing that differently. For cash, you're probably playing ATN, Cook, Zach Moss. So yeah, that'd be it for cash. But don't play those the same way. Cash and single entry are like completely different formats. Okay, let's favorite the top 150. Try to get a better read on what's going on here. Player ROIs. Top ROI player right now is Matt Collins. So the Sims prefer him. Again, making a stand on a Bills receiver if you have a reason to do it. Seems like it'd be beneficial on this slate. Sims say Matt Collins looks the best. So if you wanted to take that, you could. Keep in mind, though, people using the Sim are also going to land on Matt Collins. So maybe that theoretically makes Keon Coleman more appealing. Bretton Strange, positive ROI. Everybody else, because they're in a lot of duped lineups, negative ROIs. So these two are the only positive ROIs on the slate. At least for right now. Matt Collins, Bretton Strange, the Jags tight end, fielding for Evan Ingram. And Gesicki, not too negative. Jaden, not too negative. But clearly you have to be careful about where you're playing those guys. Stack ROIs. Jaden, QB +1 is the only positive ROI one. Everybody else, you should be stacking them more so. Burrow, Lawrence, Allen, they're really making a lineup if multiple guys are making a lineup with them. So keep that in mind. For QB +2, same thing here. Jaden can get away with it because he runs. The other guys, weird that Josh Allen, you can't get away with it. But I guess it's because people don't want to play more than one stack partner with Josh Allen enough, if I had to guess. But negative ROIs for everybody else here in the QB +2 stacks. QB +3, highest ROI is Trevor Lawrence. So you get a little bit low owned if you play the QB +3 with Trevor Lawrence. So you people out there who like Jags builds, nothing else you're building unique. For Joe Burrow, -4%. Jaden Daniels, -9%. And Josh Allen, -16%. So fuck Jaden to me. Based on all this, Jaden looks like the best play. Favorites as well, all that. Exposures overall. So the Sims were saying get 93% Jamar Chase. So Sims saying again, ownership this high still wants you to get more of it. So they do feel like Jamar Chase is a good play. Again, the Sims are often going to think that the best runaway, best chalk is the best play. Yesterday, it would have pushed you on Kamara. Yesterday, it would have pushed you on Jordan Mason. Both guys projected really well. Were incredible chalk. They still worked a lot in the Sims builds. So keep that in mind here. But they are saying get more Jamar Chase. Saying get a lot more James Cook. 93% James Cook. I tend to agree. I think Cook runs some risk of not having the upside we saw in that Miami game, but he's getting 2.5 red zone touches a game, 1.5 inside the 10-yard line. I don't think the Jags are a good team. That's also a big part of it. Giving up 0.08 EPA per rush on defense as well. Also giving up a lot of QB rush. 0.8 EPA per QB rush is pretty high. So like James Cook could lose out on touchdowns, but in terms of the PPR upside, in terms of the expected role here, I mean, he's getting 17 touches a game, which is second most on the slate to Brian Robinson Jr. Yeah, he's getting more than everybody else besides Brian Robinson Jr. So for James Cook, to me, an obvious play, does fit the game theory. Obviously, I think that's going to be a pretty well-duped, chalky version of things, but I think the Bills win this game. I think the Bills are a better team. How we play that in tournaments, you have to keep in mind. But Sims saying Bills are the better team, play more James Cook. ATN basically kind of holding hands at the field, 5% more, but it's not that big of a difference. Would say there's a pretty clear Sims preference to Cook over ATN if you're going to try to only play one of them. Zach Moss getting a good amount more than the field here, 65% compared to 53%. So Zach Moss and James Cook, I think more of a sim-friendly build. Dalton Kincaid flat with the field, so basically just saying he's not a good play nor a bad play. He's just chalk. McLaurin here, a little bit less than the field, so Sims do not like him quite as much. You know how I feel about that. Well, I guess we don't know how I feel about that. How I feel about that is I really fucking hope he hits, and I'm probably going to keep chasing the dragon here in the hopes that he does. But the field's going to be playing him a good amount, so it doesn't really benefit me today. More Bills D than the field. Good amount more Keon Coleman than the field. So again, Bills receivers here. Just having a Bills receiver you can trust, I think, would be a good way to do it. Obviously, you're playing a 150 max. I would try to balance it out as best you can and split it evenly. You could maybe weight like Mac Hollins a little bit less, Curtis Samuel a little bit less. But I would say for Coleman and Shakir in particular, trying to get even amounts here. Sims like Coleman more, 36% compared to 22% ownership, whereas Shakir, it's 34% compared to 33%. But I think really, like, if you're 150 maxing, maybe try to get equal amounts of Coleman and Shakir. If you're putting in a 20 max, you're putting in just one entry in the Millie Maker, I would try to take a stand on it. And the way to get the lowest own, play them both. Play just Coleman and Shakir. We'll see what we do in the hand build, but I think that does stand out as a potential play. Highest leverage guys overall, probably talked about them already. Cook, Coleman, Mac Hollins, because he's not going to be owned at all. They want you to get 17% of him. Commanders D coming in a good amount, 2x the field on Commanders D, almost 3x the field on Jaden Daniels. There we go. Those are your plays right now. Actually, no, almost 2x the field on Jaden Daniels. Sorry about that. All right, let's hand build. Let's hand build, see what we can land on here. All right, let's share this tab. Let me make this smaller version of it. All right. So I think that Bills duo to me makes sense. Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, they have the best work. I'm going to go there. I'm going to go Bills dominant here. So Bills up top. Do we fade Jamar Chase in this build? I think we could try to target production at T. Higgins, and I could live with that. I think Higgins and Zach Moss are going to be my way. I say the touchdowns concentrate for these guys. Maybe Chase still has a good enough day, but not one that's too crazy. Do I think the Bills just beat down the Jags? I'm not sure if I do. James Cook's going to be everywhere. Let's go ATN. Let's say Josh Allen runs in TDs. Or do you want to go Josh Allen in this? Because I do like going the Jaden route as well. Let's try to finish this lineup out. I'm going McLaurin. I'm going McLaurin without Jaden in this build. Still like the upside for McLaurin theoretically in a game where the other team expected to put up a lot of points. DST, tight end. Tight end gets really thin at this point. We can't play a defense if we play Kincaid. Could live with Bretton Strange. I also wouldn't mind putting Brian Thomas in this lineup either. Man. All right, let's see what Bretton Strange gets us. Gets us 5K on defense, which is too much money. This is a really tough configuration. I got to admit, this is not a fun hand build. Jags play a ton of man coverage, and that's... yeah, 50% man coverage rate. The only person who's been good versus man coverage is Keon Coleman, 2.2 yards per route run. Shakir hasn't even been targeted versus man coverage so far. Curtis Samuel, 20% target per route run. Yeah, I guess that would give you a little bit of a lean for Keon, but not like a huge one. Anyway, I've got Keon in here anyway, so it doesn't really matter for me. Kind of want to go Brian Thomas here. Let's see what this does. Brian Thomas, Josh Allen. Not put a defense in yet. I don't think the Bengals D gets a takeaway. Like, Jaden doesn't drop back enough. He's not that inaccurate. Wouldn't mind playing Commanders D here, I guess. I just hope that they can get one takeaway from Burrow. Burrow's been 68% catchable ball rate for Burrow, 5.6 air yards per attempt. So he's not even really risking it right now. All right, let's just see what this gets us here. We'll just put in Bengals D. We didn't play Jaden in this build. Josh Allen, Zach Moss, Travis Etienne, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas Jr., T. Higgins, Bretton Strange, Terry McLaurin, Bengals. Is this enough production here? We're saying the pass game flows through Keon Coleman. Josh Allen runs in some touchdowns. I don't think this is going to be a positive ROI. You can hail that. The quintessential early season play to get overexcited about and watch as it falls apart. But look, he's getting great work. You got good work, you get good results. Like, what are you going to do? Good blocking. Like he's fucking running in open space. Like, what the fuck, man? I hate people of victory lapping Saquon more than anything. I get it. But like, people get really fucking worked about it. Doesn't make him a good player, guys. He's still not avoiding tackles, even above league average. That's the fucking main thing you look at. Negative 54% ROI on this one. We just fade the Commanders entirely, but not load up on Bengals. Maybe that would do it. Play James Cook as well. You know, Josh Allen throws picks. You can play Jacksonville. He's not really throwing that many picks these days. They're really limiting what he can do in this offense. He doesn't even have an interception on the year. I mean, not that that's going to hold up forever, but it's not like he's fucking going pick crazy right now. Negative 14% ROI on this one with Josh Allen, Zach Moss, ATN Coleman, Brian Thomas Jr., Higgins, Bretton Strange, and James Cook. So a little more Bills dominant, still not enough to get us there. I think you got to go Jaden. Let's stick with Moss. I didn't mean to take out Moss. What do we get if we go Jaden here? All right, so we've got the best RBs. I think we need to have McLaurin, or at least Ertz, in a build with this. Ertz. Let's go Bills D. All right, so somewhat dominant Bills build. 2,400 on the table. I feel like it just probably wants me to put in Jamar Chase, right? I think that's probably going to get the sim to work better. All right, so leaving 800 on the table. That's enough money left. Jaden, Zach Moss, ATN, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas Jr., Jamar Chase, Zach Ertz, James Cook, Bills D. I would certainly prefer to play McLaurin, but we're just trying to see if we can get a positive ROI here. Props don't seem too excited about ATN today. Yeah, but that doesn't mean he can't make a lineup. Pretty sure all lineups without Chase will give you minus EV. Let's go back and look at that. Let's see. So this got me a 33% ROI on the hand build. So Jaden, Zach Moss, ATN, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas Jr., Jamar Chase, Zach Ertz, James Cook, Bills D, leaving 800 on the table, playing only 2 Bengals. This fits sort of what I would try to do, and I do think out of the player take part of it, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas Jr., probably my 2 favorite players from that early game. So still would like to find a way to get McLaurin in this build, but that is what it is. Let's go back over here real fast. And let's just look for lineups without Jamar Chase. If I had to guess, they're going to be lineups that still play the pass game, but don't have Chase in them. Still play the Bengals pass game, that is. Lineups do not contain Chase. All right, so lineups without Jamar Chase here. Josh Allen, Travis Etienne, James Cook, Terry McLaurin, Shakir, Mac Hollins, Kincaid, Zach Moss, and Bengals. So instead, you're going a 4-man QB stack with Josh Allen to not play Jamar Chase. That is a long way to go to do that. Josh Allen, ATN, Cook, McLaurin. So McLaurin's making all these lineups too without Chase. Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, Kincaid, Zach Moss, Commanders. So yeah, basically you're getting no Bengals and you're getting Josh Allen, I guess, coming over the top on it. Trevor Lawrence, ATN, Cook, Higgins, Kirk, Gabe Davis, Kincaid, Zach Moss, Bengals. So QB +3 with Trevor Lawrence. You're putting in T. Higgins to approximate Jamar Chase production. Jaden Daniels, ATN, Cook, McLaurin, Shakir, Christian Kirk, Kincaid, Zach Moss, Commanders. This one, you're not getting Oppo correlation. I guess, Zach Moss would be it. But you're not getting a receiver Oppo correlation for Jaden Daniels. So basically, if you don't play Chase, it just feels like it's saying don't play Bengals at all. At least for these top ROI ones. This one's a Burrow stack, QB +3. Burrow, ATN, Cook, Higgins, Shakir, Yoshevich, Kincaid, Moss, Bengals. See, that's the kind of way I feel like that's sort of, to me, how I thought that Niners game was going to go yesterday, where if Ayuk doesn't hit, it meant that a couple guys would have to hit. I foolishly thought that'd be Jordan Mason in the pass game and Eric Saubert getting there more than Juwan Jennings going for 150 yards and 4 touchdowns. Silly me not recognizing that outcome. But I think that's sort of how normally production goes, where the star player doesn't get it, the Ayuk doesn't get it, so the production instead gets chopped between a bunch of guys who have slightly better days than usual relative to their salaries. That's how I would think you would play it, but, this one just has T. Higgins filling in, so that's that. All right, any other lineups to show here? I feel like nothing that crazy. You've seen all the QBs. You've seen Lawrence. We've seen Jaden. We've seen Allen. We've seen Burrow teams. That's basically it. Just for the sake of curiosity. No, these are going to have Allen lineups. Eric All. Eric All makes one lineup here. Like a couple positive ROI lineups, but only at 29.5%. Burrow, ATN, Cook, Chase, Shakir, Kirk, Eric All, Zach Moss, Bengals. I'm just pulling an Eric All because somebody asked about him earlier, but he's played 33 snaps last week. It's not insignificant. Gesicki played 30. I didn't realize he played more snaps than Gesicki. All right, so maybe I shouldn't have poo-pooed All as much as I did. Certainly didn't get the target results that Gesicki did. Gesicki dominated targets in that last game. But again, that should come down to earth with Higgins back. Weird slate. It's a weird slate. Anyway, that's our hand build ROI. Oh, there you go. Just show the big ROI here. All right, so 3 takeaways to get unique on this slate. Let's do that. 3 takeaways. Number 1, if you got the guts to do it, not playing Jamar Chase would be one way to immediately get different. Besides that, we can go back to the sim results in the solver and basically say you should be separating out Zach Moss, Jamar Chase, James Cook. Based on ETR's projections, those 3 guys, Chase, Cook, Zach Moss, going to be played in every lineup tonight together, are going to be forced to that because of the projections and how they work, the salaries and all of that combined. So if you're going to fade guys, I would fade one of those big 3. Moss, I don't know, I'm holding up those 3 fingers. Moss, Chase, Cook. If you want to fade one of those guys, that'll make you more unique right away. If you fade multiple of those guys, even more unique. Fade all 3 somehow. That's how you'd win a slate if that outcome works out for you. Number 2 way to get unique would be play less than 4 Bengals. 4 Bengals seems to be the bare minimum you're getting based off the projection. So whenever you see that on a short slate, usually tells me, hey, if you're going to play 4 more Bengals, you really got to get unique. And it's usually not even worth trying it because that's what people are dedicating their time to. They see 4 Bengals come up a bunch. They try to find unique ways to play the 4 Bengals. When in reality, the better thing you do for yourself, it's kind of an MLB DFS thing from way back when, where the most popular stack on the day is just play 1 hitter from it, maybe play a 3-man stack, and hope those 3 men create the production that drives the entire team and the other guys fail. It's sort of what you're trying to do for football here, where it's like, hey, can we get the production for the Bengals concentrated to just Jamar Chase, just Zach Moss, just T. Higgins? If you want to go low own, just Yoshevich, just Gesicki, just Eric All, whatever. That's sort of the way you could kind of get around this stuff and try to capture the expected outcome, but in an unexpected way. Number 3 would be, I think the Bills receiver thing is it. Just having Bills receiver be a key part of what you're doing, getting in one of those guys, taking the risk. I think a lot of people, even though it is a short slate, are just going to go, I don't know which Bills receiver to play, and as a result, they're not going to play any of them. We saw the Sims like Keon Coleman. We saw the Sims were holding hands with Shakir. We saw the Sims like Matt Collins relative to Matt Collins' ownership. Didn't seem like they like Curtis Samuel, but if you have a lean on a Bills receiver, mine would be Keon Coleman. But if you have one, playing that angle a little bit more and just letting that be the thing that speaks for you a little bit more on the slate, I think that's your way to make it get different. So I would say, to me, those are probably your 3 takeaways to get unique here. It's a doubleheader. It's a 2-gamer. It's a little bit different than the usual showdown stuff, but still hopefully some opportunity here if the Bengals don't hit and the way that they're expected. I think that'll give an opportunity for maybe not a solo win, but a less duped win. Last year, won 30K off a $3 entry in a 2-gamer. So hopefully we can recreate. Hopefully for me and not for you. No, but if not, I hope Michael does well. It's impressive to be able to do that. Look, my biggest DFS win in NBA was playing 5 entries in a $15 tournament and winning 56K or 57K. So like, I certainly think that you have that ability to do that. It's harder than ever in DFS to be able to make, 1 or 2 entries, less than even 20 entries, have that upside for you. But people are doing it still, like it still happens. So you're never dead. The hopes are alive, and your hopes will be more alive, guys. If you go hit that like button and subscribe, go check out Stochastic, 15% off on there, promo code SPLASH. Link in the description, down in the comments as well for you. Check that out. Solver, if you want to it's not promoted probably right now, unfortunately. Solver, go check that out. Link in the description for that. Of course, more hand building options there. If you want to just lock 3 players in, build out all your lineups, sim that and see how it does. It's what you can do with the Solver, which is not the case on Stochastic, where you just have a pool of 10,000 lineups and they kind of give you what they give you and you work off of that. The Solver, you can build your own shit and sim it out against their pre-established player pool. So key differences between the two products that I think give them equal merits to use in a process. So check out the Solver, again, link in the description, and Stochastic as well. Both support the show, and that's really the main thing I can ask you guys for, so I can keep doing this every day. Join down below. Again, if you want to support the show most directly, $4.99. Have to update this one because I think we lost a few members, gained 1, but your support means a lot here. Of course, you get a VIP Discord, my data sheet, premium video every week as well. So you get a lot of great stuff from me if you do join and support the show. And again, that's the best way to make sure I can keep doing this, is joining down below using the affiliate links, because the math's got to start mathing at some point soon. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at Splash Play Pod. Gamble responsibly. Get some free pick'ems on Underdog. Promo code SPLASH for $1,000 and bonus cash on there. And I'll be back tomorrow with more. I'll be back with the best ball review show. So started really well for me this week. And then Sunday Night Football, I don't know where, like fucking all my shit went down because of Sunday Night Football. Probably Rashee Rice, if I had to guess, just fucking knifing me in the neck. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. Hopefully Jaden crushes today. That's the dream. I'll see you guys then. Enjoy your days, no matter what you're playing tonight. Good luck, and bye-bye. See you soon.